IPMNation.com.
All Natural Being. Warning, All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy is designed to shake your sense of self to the core.
It's full contact psychology with an empowering twist, a philosophical loofah for your soul.
For those of you not ready or comfortable releasing your inner superhuman, listener discretion is advised.
Here's your host,
Brian Brawdy.
Welcome to All Natural Being. It's Brian. I'm very fired up to have you with us this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whenever you're listening. And if you're listening live, we do this every Monday through Friday, just about every Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Then again at 11 a.m. and 8 p.m. right here on IPMNation.com. And I'll tell you this morning, doing this live, the weather outside, it is just pounding. Now, I don't know, you may have grandkids, you may have kids that are of young age, but I will tell you when the thunder and lightning storms are the worst, a little bit of news you can use. I'll share this with you. What I've done for what I've always done, but most notably now in my mind, again, for my youngest sons, is saying that thunder are just clouds doing fist bumps. Right? It's just been a brutal storm outside overnight. We've lost power a couple times. So if all of a sudden my voice is replaced with music, then you'll know what happened. The lights have been flickering on and off here in the studio, and the boys are up throughout the night because it's just been a storm here in northern Illinois. But at one point, one of my sons looked at me and punched his fist together and said, "Fist bumps." So if you're in a situation where you're trying to calm a young one, it has always worked well for me and my children to say, "Nope, give me a fist bump," and then go, "Pow!" Right? Which kind of leads me into this morning's show, because all I'm doing is reframing thunder in the mind of my children. So it's about reframing. Which means most of the things, this is what neuroscience teaches us now, most of the things that trouble us do so right up until the point we reframe them. Once we reframe them, once we see them in a different context, well, we see them in a different context. It either gives them strength or zaps their strength. If they're things that we think we enjoy, then it gives them strength to change the context. If they're things that we are running from, then by changing the context, zaps their strength. And that's kind of what I'd like to talk about today as a part of All Natural Being. Now, don't forget, reach out to me, Brian Brawdy on Facebook or over at Twitter. You can probably hear that thunder in the background. You can reach out to me at 331-684-7685, 331-684-SOUL. You can also go over to allnaturalbeing.com, leave me an email. I'll send you one back. We can hook up that way, because I'm working at building and making it different. Ashley said to me the other day, she goes, "You ever going to take call-in guests?" Yeah, as soon as I can figure out another dozen things that I have going on. But we're going to do the call-in guests. We're going to do some authors as soon as I get, because some of these authors are like, "Well, how many people follow you?" And I go, "I don't know. I think 11, maybe." And Matt at IPM Nation always gives me a hard time. He says, "Will you stop telling people that your numbers are growing like dust settling on a windowsill? Knock it off." So, but let me also thank you. We're the number one show now, I think going on 3 months, 70 episodes, somewhere around in there. The number one show on IPM Nation. So thank you very much for that. 5-star rating over on iTunes. Thank you very much for that as well. And in the running to get a show on iHeartRadio. We're still working on that. And all of that is due to you, because if it weren't for you, the show wouldn't be taking off. And I think I would get up. I don't know, really. I think I might get up every day and continue to do this because it's a passion of mine, a passion of reminding you not to surrender, not to leave your soul on the sidelines? That's what I dig. I look back over the course of my life. That's what I've been doing. And we're going to get to this whole survival expert thing because I got a couple of emails yesterday about that. And we're going to kick off the show this morning. Before we get to the anaerobic aphorism, I want to kick off with some of the emails that we've gotten and some of the questions that we've had. But it's been a week or so since I mentioned the top 10 cities and listeners here on IP in the Mission. So I want to do that real quickly. Of course, Manchester, New Hampshire leads the list. Boston. Good morning, Boston. Chicago, Illinois in at number 3. Good morning, Chicago, or good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're listening. Oshkosh. I love that word, Oshkosh. Wisconsin. Oshkosh, Wisconsin is in, as is Rochester, New Hampshire, and Concord, New Hampshire. New York, the Big Apple on the list as well, as is Laconia, New Hampshire. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Let me say, I think the guys and gals in Minneapolis, am I allowed to say gals? I think the folks, the good people of Minneapolis, Minnesota, got this storm right before we got it here. God love you. This thing, it's been rattling the windows. You know, as you'll soon see, because we're going to start going here in the next, I'm thinking maybe the next 10 days, we're going to start broadcasting live video from the studio so you get to see. But the thunder this morning was so bad at one point, it actually caused the huge gong that I have hanging in the studio. It caused the gong to vibrate. That's how visceral you could feel that clap of thunder, one particular clap of thunder. And so I think the folks in Minneapolis had that last night. And so I'm glad it's gone from you, and we'll be glad when it moves on from us. But hey, you know, the grass needed some rain. The local parks needed some rain. Some of the ponds, some of the little lakes around here are a little low. So great to have some nitrogen-enriched rain, fueling everything back up. Oh, and number 10 on the list, I also want to thank Atlanta, Georgia, for tuning in, and all of those different cities helping to make All Natural Being the number one show here on IPM Nation. All right, so what is it that I do here? If you're new to the show, I should tell you I'm like a mental hygienist, right? You ever go to the dentist? You go see a dental hygienist, and he or she or he, scrapes your teeth, cleans your teeth, teaches you how to floss or reminds you how to do it right, helps you with this, helps you with that. Well, that's kind of what I am. I'm like a mental hygienist, because for me, I think we reach a certain stage where our mind has some tartar, some philosophical tartar. I think our minds have some plaque that just builds up, and from time to time you need to go in and scrape it out. You need to go ahead and polish it up. So that's what I do here every day on All Natural Being. It's my goal to remind you of who you ultimately are. And I say all the time it's because I want you to be happy and fulfilled and successful. All those things are true. But given some of the emails yesterday about, well, how did you go from survival expert, spending all that time outside, to what you're doing now? And to me, it's exactly the same thing. Minus the bears, the alligators, the mountain lions, the mosquitoes. Talk about predators. I've been really fortunate to be to some amazing places by myself, surviving in the middle of nowhere. But it taught me some things about surviving in the middle of everywhere, right? Doesn't matter what situation you're in, because I don't know what the future holds, but I'm certain that that future is going to be tough on the weak of heart. Whatever the future holds, if you don't believe in yourself, it's going to be a battle for you. Because that's the key to all survival. Physical survival, mental survival, spiritual survival. The key to all of it is believing in yourself. And the key to believing in yourself is knowing who you are. And it's my position, has been all along, that beneath all the craziness in our lives, beneath all the sadness, all the stress, all the depression, there's an all-natural being. And I know that this is not easy for some people to hear, right? Just given some of the comments, some of the hate mail, some of those other things. I know some people don't dig this concept of all-natural being. But I have to tell you, you're welcome to leave your quote below, send me the emails, put out the negative tweets, do whatever you like, because I'm not here for you. I'm here for your soul. because it's sick and tired of being left on the sidelines. It's like tick, 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 tick. What the hell are we waiting for? A human brain, a human mind, wrapped around a soul. What are we waiting for? Our passion has a shelf life. It's time to get up, get out, and kick in some doors. Because the future isn't going to look kindly upon the timid. Never has, never will. It just can't. That's what it does. So my question, each and every morning, is something similar to this. Are you mentally strong enough for tomorrow? Because here's the one truth I do know. Life doesn't get any easier. You get smarter. Life isn't ever going to be any easier. But you stand the chance right now of getting smarter. And the quickest way to get smarter is to remember who you ultimately are. Outside of all the offenses, outside of all the embarrassment, outside of all the worry, outside of all the fear, better yet, maybe inside of all those things, what do you got? You got your all-natural being. You got your core. Excuse me. So I guess you could say, and as soon as in case some of the people that have given me great suggestions are listening, as soon as I find an intern that'll get up and come in this early in the morning, right now I think I would have them tweet, tweet, hashtag restore your pure. Because that's what I'm into. I love the concept of you being impeccably human. And people go, oh, there's a lot wrong with humanity. No, there isn't. There's a lot wrong with some of the thought process that we subject ourselves to. But being human, in addition to being a blessing, is a challenge. And you have to decide, are you going to rise to that challenge? Are you going to be mentally strong enough for the next 30 seconds in the labyrinth? Because that's where we are. We're in a labyrinth. The lunges, the lapses, the lefts, the rights, the ups and downs, the pivots, the swerves, the cul-de-sacs. Because there are no dead ends in the labyrinth. They're cul-de-sacs. There are no wrong turns. And that's what we're going to focus on the rest of the show. All right, let's jump to the anaerobic aphorism, which, again, was sparked by a listener, friend, sending me a post on Facebook saying, hey, how do well, let's talk about some hard questions. How do you answer or ask yourself some of the hard questions? And the response was, well, how do you deal with your mistakes? How do you deal with the things that you've messed up in the past? So this morning's anaerobic aphorism, learning from our hiccups, the hiccups that confront us in life, has nothing to do with beating ourselves up over them. We're going to have hiccups. We're going to have mistakes. We're going to get derailed from time to time. We're human. That's a part of the gig. Oh, Brian, I can't make mistakes. Too embarrassing. Too embarrassing. Well, embarrassment only affects people with thin skin. Only affects people with thin skin. So you can say, oh, that's terribly embarrassing. And I'd ask, okay, well, what could we do to thicken your skin? What could we do to toughen you a little bit? And by toughen, I mean return to the all-natural thickness of your skin, to the natural girth of your spine, of your backbone. Because we can only be embarrassed when we're porous enough to let pins in and make us a pincushion. Now I know people will say, oh, no, he said some really mean things. Or she said something really snotty. I'm not taking away from that. I'm sure the things that they said were X to the 100th degree. But if you don't let them in, they don't have that energy. If you don't let them in, it's like a basketball. You're going to shoot a free throw. If the ball bounces around on the rim, doesn't count. Insults bounce around on the rim. When we let them in, nothing but net, whoosh, then they have energy. But if we don't let them in, they don't count. They don't score. And one of the things that we do to feel embarrassed, to let that negative energy in, is to be worried about our mistakes. And I think that our mistakes, they're not meant to direct us. They're most certainly not meant to define us. Bad moments don't make bad lives unless you and I glue them together and go, oh, look, here's my laundry list of mistakes. And then what does the mind do? It goes, told you. Shouldn't have tried. Shouldn't have done that. Told you it was going to be embarrassing. Told you you were going to get a mistake. Well, here's the deal. Here's what a lot of people don't want us knowing, that strength is nothing more than our personal, our unique, our authentic bag of struggles. That's all strength is. People go, oh, that's real. That's some good strength you got there. No, that's like 10 billion struggles all glued together. So instead of taking our bad moments and gluing them together, why not just recognize, why not just reframe strength as what it truly is? And you go, well, I'm not in the mood for philosophy this morning, Brian. Oh, then I don't know why you're not watching Good Morning America. I don't know what to tell you. But what I'm suggesting is you're not in the mood for philosophy. Okay, let's talk biology. Strength is nothing more than the struggle of a muscle. Every struggle yields more strength. It's become so cliche. It's become so glib and trite. I don't even want to go down that road. But then again, you can't escape that that's all strength is. It's a bag of our personal struggles. The more struggles in the bag, the more strength that we have. So they're going to be hiccups. Which I kind of dig when you think just like push-ups or sit-ups or pull-ups. Hiccups. That's about as far as I can go with it. But hiccups, they're exercises to build your strength. Remember Oscar Wilde, the picture of Dorian Gray? What do you say? Nowadays, most people die a sort of creeping common sense. I love that. Creeping common sense, which is, I call it the static quo. But he said most people die a form of, or a sort of creeping common sense, and discover only when it's too late that the things one never regrets are one's mistakes. So why are you and I busy complaining, hiding because of our hiccups? So what? Can't spell Brian without the I in idiot. Can't spell Brian without the N in nincompoop. Right? Nitwit. What are you going to do? You make mistakes. Or Kurt Vonnegut. I don't remember which one, what story this was, but he says, a step backward after making a wrong turn is a step in the right direction. Even Vonnegut knew. We don't have problems. They're portals to intelligence. They're portals to strength. And if you've been listening for a while, then you know that I think that wrong turns only happen for those that are certain of the right direction. So I'm suggesting for 20 minutes, one 20-minute victory, 1/72 of your day, don't have any particular place to go. Don't have a right direction, then you can't make a wrong turn. Don't be moving in a direction. Wait and see what unfolds. The lunges, the lapses. Shift happens here in the labyrinth. And as a survival expert, just like you, what we have to decide in the moment is, can we handle whatever the labyrinth throws at us? Absolutely we can. Now it's up to us. Are we going to show up or shut down? That's the question. The moment at hand. You and I going to show up, or are we going to shut down? If you show up, you're a survival expert. You shut down, you're a victim. It is really that simple. So if we go into a 20-minute victory and go, okay, let's see what the labyrinth is going to throw at me. I've got no particular place to go. I've got no direction. Then there can be no wrong turns. People are so quick to worry about their mistakes, and I say a mistake. Well, why did you make a mistake? Because it's not where I wanted to be. Well, then stop buying into places that you want to be and be where you are now. Being wrong isn't toxic. Unless you come down on yourself like a ton of bricks. They're hiccups. They're mistakes. Why wouldn't you want to own them? People say, well, how do I own? I want to know how to own my mistakes. It's like asking, well, how do you own your muscle? Because all your muscle is a hodgepodge of stressors. That's what built your muscle. And it doesn't have to be huge biceps or any muscle you have in your body. If you're able to smile, those are muscles. So where did we talk about reframing? Where did we come to believe that being wrong is toxic? When did that happen to us? Probably caregivers when we were young, growing up, wanting to make sure we did it right. So if they highlighted our mistakes, they would hope, like Vonnegut says, wrong turn is a step in the right direction. But then we get to a point in our lives where we go, oh man, I don't want to be chastised again because of my mistakes. Well, it takes two to chastise. It takes two to pile on. Just because people outside of you or your own inner critic, you got one of those? That little voice in your head that's ready to beat up on you? Doesn't have to be toxic. We don't have to come down on ourselves like a ton of bricks. We don't have to beat ourselves up. We can look at struggles and mistakes as what they truly are. Those building blocks. Building blocks to a better brain. Building blocks to a better life. And though I never talk about the future here on the show, I want to wrap this up before we get to our segments this morning. I want to wrap this up by saying, again, I don't know what it holds, but I'm certain the future is going to be tough on the weak of heart. It just has to be. So you have to decide today, are you mentally strong enough for tomorrow? Life doesn't get easier, you get smarter. And what are you going to do about it right now for the next 20 minutes? You're going to hang in limbo, or are you going to jump headfirst into the labyrinth? Frozen or fruitful? It's up to you. It's up to you. All right, now, today's segments. How to be your brain's best friend. I like that. Mastering the basics of your mind. That'll be segment 1. Segment number 2, and we're going to blow through these so I can get all 3 in today. Segment number 2, how not to be your brain's best friend. And here, a little bit of a reframe. Use it. Segment number 3, stay in the moment to stimulate your brain. And you know, if you've been listening, that I'm a fan of this concept of the cognitive cutting edge. Adaptive difficulty is what some psychologists call it, right? Where we push ourselves just to the edge, and then we do a 20-second victory. And then once we're sure we can do that, we push ourselves again just to the edge and do another 20-second victory. And they have a cumulative effect. When we expect the unexpected, that's what we're going to talk about in segment 3. When we expect the unexpected, when we leave our minds right at their cognitive cutting edge, when we adapt to the difficulty of the moment, that's when we get our strength. That's what it takes to become a survival expert, inside and outside. All right, we'll be back after this quick break.
You're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. How much longer will you let them hijack your head and your heart?
All right, that's the question of the day. It's the question every time we hang out together. How much longer are you going to let them hijack your heart and your head? Don't let people convince you that hiccups are something horrible. Stay positive. And by positive, I mean just grab it and learn everything you can from it. Everything. Look at it as the gold mine that it is. All right. Segment number 1. How to be your brain's best friend. I like this one. Found an article, Forbes.com, talking about the 7 habits that may actually change the brain. Alice Walton is the contributor. And we're not going to go through all 7 because we're already running out of time. But the first one that I wanted to talk about, and she mentions in the top of her article, was exercise. Now, no one really knows. They think it might have something to do with increased blood flow. They're really not sure, but why exercise? Now, that's a word that scares everybody. Exercise. Oh, I don't know. But here's what I found. Share a little bit of a personal note with you. One time in my life, I was, 45 pounds heavier than I currently am right now. 45 pounds. You get into the holiday cookies and you do this and you do that, and I had a little bit of an injury, but don't feel any sympathy for me there. But in any event, I was a good bit heavier. So what did I do? Decided that I would have an exercise program, 20 minutes at a time. Now, my exercise program in the beginning, and I'm a little pig-headed, as you can probably imagine, so I've never been much for just walking. So my 20-minute, my first one was a slow jog, and I mean slow. But here's one of the keys. If you're in the position now, maybe you will be in the future, if you're in the position of contemplating getting back in shape, not just six-pack abs outwardly, but spiritually having a six-pack mind, I would do it 20 minutes at a time. And at the end of every minute, all I said was thank you. Thank you that I've been able to move for this minute. It was a minute more than I had yesterday. And here's what I found. When you say thank you, even for the ability to move, whether it's walking, swimming, cycling, whatever exercise, dancing, when you get to the end of that first minute, you say thank you, and you congruently mean it. In your heart, you go, thank you. Now, I do this thing where my left foot strikes the ground, I exhale. When my right foot strikes, and then my left foot again, I inhale. So it sounds like this. So I exhale on the left, I go right, left, and then I exhale on the next foot strike. Is that making sense? So I exhale with my left foot. Next 2 foot strikes would be right, left. I inhale. When my right foot hits the ground this time, I exhale. So it sounds something like and I found that leaves me with a good bit of balance. Now, depending upon my pace, on my tempo, if I go breath 2, 3, breath 2, 3, breath 2, 3, if I get through 4 or 5 of those, I'm at a minute. And then I just cultivate a sense of gratitude for having made it that distance. Giving myself permission. If I want to stop at the end of that minute, I stop at that end of the minute. If I want to add, right, these are scalable. If I want to add another handful of 20-second victories, then I add another handful. They're scalable. They're cumulative. You can pile them up on each other. But I promise you that you will get to 20 minutes before you even know it. People say, well, I'm breathing heavy, or it hurts here or hurts there. And just go, thanks. Thanks. I appreciate it. Say thank you. I checked with my doctor. My doctor said this was a cool thing. I could do this. So then say thank you. And then move on to the next minute. And I promise you, you will get to the end of your 20 minutes like that. And you're going to go, wow, that wasn't all that bad. And then you go, great. And then tomorrow you decide, will I have another 20-minute victory? Movement, instead of exercise, movement in any way I see fit. Will I squeeze in another 20-minute victory tomorrow? Only you can tell. The physical activity, the aerobics, the calisthenics, whatever you're going to do, whatever maneuvers you're going to use, 20 minutes at a time. But at the end of each minute, 4 to 5 of those alternating breath foot strikes. And the nice thing about it is you can practice in the house. You can practice walking upstairs. I promise you that stairs, if you put your left foot on the first stair and exhale, then take 2 deep breaths on the next 2 foot strikes. Right and then left. And then as your right foot comes back again on what will now be the 4th stair and you exhale, those stairs are not going to be as formidable, not be as challenging as you first thought. So exhale, inhale, inhale, exhale. Or as I call it, breath, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. If you do that, if you employ that as a tactic, and at the end of each cycle go, thanks, thank you. Have a sense of gratitude that your body works the way it does, that your heart works the way it does, that it's pumping blood to your brain, it's pumping all the nutrients that your brain needs in order to get through the day. You conjure it up, you say, hey, thanks, I really appreciate that. Or don't say anything at all. Just a sense of gratitude. Maybe even just say to yourself at the end of a 4-cycle breath, just go, yes. Yes, I'm out here, I'm doing it, I'm giving my brain what it needs. Number 2 on her list, foods and spices. Probably won't go into that now because everyone has an idea. Food, spices, minerals, and vitamins, something to think about. All right, so we want to look at that, but it's so personal. I think everyone should kind of pick the things that they're interested in, right? The things that grab them, the things that they like. Now, I know turmeric, however it's pronounced. I get in trouble all the time for the way I pronounce things here. Turmeric is allegedly a great spice for all kinds of reasons, so just keep that in mind. Maybe you can go ahead and check and see if that's something. They talk about coffee. Excuse me, a lot of people apparently think that coffee's not all that good for you, but in some studies, they do a great job, like cocoa. Some doctors believe now that they improve vascular health, so that's cool. Now, meditation is the next one on our list. And here's the thing, I tell you every day, the concept of meditation and mindfulness and all these other things. I saw a post today where every single post, be mindful, be mindful, be mindful, be mindful. You know what I'm mindful of? I'm sick and tired of hearing the word mindful. That's what I'm mindful of. Meditate on that. So here's what you can do, and I've mentioned this before. Meditation just means you're showing up in the moment. That's all. You didn't take a dive. You're paying attention to what's going on around you. And one of my favorite meditations is washing my hands. I've talked about this before. Fire up the water, put some soap, and if you wash your hands, and by that I mean running your fingertips back and forth, working the soap between your fingers, getting the backs of your hands, and all you do is picture the feeling of those little ridges of your fingertips gliding across the soap, how the water feels, how the suds feel, how your 2 thumbs, your 2 pinkies moving together feel. If you can keep that up for 20 seconds, you got yourself a meditation. That's all it is. So let's demystify it once and for all. Don't have to break your back. Don't have to torque your knees. You don't have to do any of those things. Meditation just means showing up in the moment. End of debate. People say, well, you need a mantra. Great. Make your mantra thank you. Same mantra as when we walk. Technically, I guess you could call my breath 2, 3, breath 2, 3, breath 2, 3, breath 2, 3. Call that a meditation if you like. I'm into it. I view it that way. But even if you're just washing your hands, let's say you're reading a book, don't just turn the page. Feel the page in your fingers. And in that moment, when your focus leaves your mind, goes down your neck, down your shoulders, down your arms, into your fingertips, and you can tell me what the page feels like, you got yourself a meditation. No charge. That's all we have to do. And your mind digs that focus. And that's why they talk about now, in terms of exercise, your maneuvers, your physical and your mental maneuvers, help build new neurons. even as we get older. That's what neuroplasticity, not just about new connections between the neurons, but actually new neurons in your brain for your mind to use however it sees fit. Talk about improving your attention, your concentration, and your coordination, both physically and mentally. Wash your hands. Read a book. Do you ever remember what it was like the last time you... Forget chopsticks. You ever remember what it's like the last time you put some food in your mouth on your fork? Do you remember what that food felt like when it hit your tongue? Do you? If not, there's your next meditation. You having a bowl of cereal? Having a cool sandwich for lunch? Whatever you're doing? What did it actually feel like when it hit your tongue? No checking your phone. No checking your schedule. No adding to your inane bucket list. None of that. What did the food feel like when it hit your tongue? There's a meditation. You show up in the moment. Your mind will thank you for it. All right. It also goes on to say that sleep. Sleep is a big one. Good God, we don't think about, you say, oh, I just have a brain. It's a machine. And it needs some rest. It needs to recuperate. You don't want to go into sleep debt. People go, oh, I'm just tired. I'll get over it. Well, your mind isn't working the way it should. Your brain isn't firing on all the cylinders. And even when we sleep, our brain doesn't catch a break. When you think about it, it's still working. If it's dreaming, it's working. If it's getting rid of the toxic buildup, both philosophically and physically, all the toxic buildup in our brain, it's moving in and around, it's still at work. So we can be our brain's best friend by making sure it gets a decent amount of sleep every night. I think some doctors are saying now, okay, a cool target is about 7 hours. But let me tell you, man, this is a terribly... I'll give you another little trick of mine, if you will. Here's what I found, and it may be different for you. But what isn't different for you is identifying this number. I've found that I am in the lightest portion of sleep at a 90-minute interval. Like I find myself waking up 5 minutes before an alarm goes off if I calculate the amount of time I sleep based on 90-minute chunks. So for me, if I can only get 6 hours, I sleep for 6 hours. Not 6 hours and 30 minutes, because 30 minutes, I'm diving back down into deep sleep again. So I have a meandering. I proactively set my mind, so in the evening, when I unwind, I'll be down for 6 hours or 7.5. No in between, because in that in between time frame, deep sleep. And if an alarm goes off and I'm being roused out of a deep sleep, just tough on me. Got to be honest with you. Tough. As ready for the labyrinth as I am at every turn, I don't like waking up when my mind is in its deep, deep sleep phase. So I'll look at 7.5 hours. And somewhere in between there, every 90 minutes, that's what I shoot for. Now, a great way to test is just take your journal, take your evidence book, take your blotter, put it alongside the bed with your pen. Notice, are there different times of night that you're waking up? How long's it been since you fell asleep? Start to identify that. And it took me a couple months to iron it out. But for me, it's every 90 minutes. I'm in that cycle. What is it for you? You won't know until you try it out. But once you nail this, once you have this little tip, this little way of this little technique for tricking your mind into going, yeah, I got a full whatever. I never sleep 8 hours anymore. 6 or 7.5. Or 9. I guess if I'm really beat and I've been traveling or I'm just... the labyrinth has kicked the crap out of me. Maybe 9. Doesn't happen all that often. But 6 or 7.5. Never anything in between. Find out what your number is. Your sleep. What's that commercial? Sleep number. Find out what your sleep number is, and you'll thank me for it. Your brain will thank you for it. And you're absolutely going to dig this because you're going to wake up refreshed. All right, let's move on to segment 2. We'll be right back. Let's do this first, then we'll do segment 2.
You're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. Because it's never too late to take your life back.
It's never too late to take your life back. And here's one thing I'd like to take it back from. Get in and rescue my mind. Segment number 2, how not to be your brain's best friend. This is kind of a reframe. Lose it to use it. You got to lose it to use it. So what's one of the things that we can lose so that we can use our mind the way nature intended? I got this from the Quartz blog. The title was Brain Drain. Neuroscientists say yet again that multitasking literally drains the energy reserves of your brain. Quote, this is Olivia Goldhill, by the way. Quote, does your morning routine consist of checking emails, browsing Facebook, heading to the train while Googling one last idea, checking notifications, gulping down some coffee, going through your work email again? That's what she wants to know. Because apparently you cram all these activities. You multitask. Oh, I'm good at it. I can multitask. I've got 5 balls in the air. I'm a juggler. You like that? Where a sense of self, one of the badges you wear is that you multitask. You can do a bunch of things all at once. Quote, that switching comes with a biological cost that ends up making us feel tired much more quickly than if we sustain attention on one thing, says the professor, behavioral neuroscience, McGill University, Daniel Levitin. He says that when we multitask, the brain's like trying to, I guess it could be not unlike a laptop computer, although I'm not saying that the brain is like a computer, but if you have too many windows open, you have too many programs running, battery on your laptop runs down. I guess it's the same for the human brain, according to all these studies. This is part of the article that I found fascinating. The Gloria Mark, the professor of the Department of Informatics at the University of California, Irvine, says that when people get interrupted, it typically takes 23 minutes and 15 seconds to return to their work. So you're busy, working away, multitasking, all of a sudden, ding, got a Facebook message, tweet, whatever, however tweets come in, whatever's going on in your life, and then you go to check that because you're multitasking. I'm good at it. I'm not going to focus on one thing. I'm not going to meditate. I'm going to binge think, right? Serial thinking. I'm going to multitask. Your brain takes another hit. And the more frenetic our schedule gets, the more crazed our day gets, the more energy it drains. So then you go into mid-morning, your energy is drained, your mental energy is drained. Your brain's like, remember Scotty from Star Wars. I'm giving it all she's got, Captain. Your mind's like, whoa, Junior, hold on here. Multitasking drains our brain. Now, thankfully, the article says, okay, so what are we going to do about that? What can we do throughout the day? Article says, quote, the solution is to give up on multitasking and set aside dedicated chunks of time for each separate activity. Bring your full focus. Show up in the now. Deal with what's at hand right now. Facebook will be there when we're done. Twitter will be there when we're done. Our emails will be there when they're done. I got to tell you, I'm sick and tired of my phone. So and I buy into it. Oh, well, I've always got to be in touch in case the kids need me. Something's up. Some other craziness, right? But those distractions, if it's true that it takes 23 minutes and 15 seconds to get our brain back in the game, how good is multitasking? And if all we're doing is pairing off our own energy, then we're not getting anything done. We're not optimizing our outlook, that's for sure. We're not optimizing our brain's ability to bring its own bold. We're certainly not doing that. We're busy draining the brain. Quote, when we attempt to multitask, we don't actually do more than one activity at once, but we quickly switch between them. And this switching is exhausting. It uses up oxygenated glucose in the brain, running down the same fuel that's needed to focus on the task. So in a way, it's like running without breathing. You're not getting any more energy in. So the next time you want to brag to yourself, oh, I'm multitasking, I can get all these things done at once, maybe ask yourself, how much better would I be if I focused on one thing for 20 minutes and then another thing for 20 minutes? What if this concept of 20-minute victories? Oh, perish the thought, Brian. What if this concept of 20-minute victories is right? What if focusing 1/72nd of your day, and let's practice, let's focus on you, on being your brain's best friend, getting off your own back. Stop beating yourself up over the hiccups. 20 minutes. That's all it's going to take. No multitasking. Meditate. Stay in the moment. Show up. Don't shut down. Because when we multitask, we're shutting down. Philosophically and apparently physiologically as well. We're draining the very resources our brain needs to run at optimal speed or perform at optimal levels, if you're more comfortable with that. So the next time someone asks, well, what are you doing for yourself today? You can say, well, I'm not multitasking, that's for sure. And if you add that in with some of the studies we talked about earlier in the week, what's today? Thursday. So we talked about on Tuesday about how being quiet, how ramping down is the quickest way of building yourself back up. 20 minutes. No multitasking. Focus just on you. Reading your book, eating your lunch, washing your hands, whatever you're doing. Have your mind right there, right in the moment. And in those two ways, that's how to be both your brain's best friend and to lose those things that make you not your brain's best friend. Just something to think about. All right, we'll be right back. Yeah, I think we'll take a quick little break. No, you know what? Look at the time. Let's not take a quick little break. Let's go right into segment number 3. I called it Stay in the Moment to Stimulate Your Brain. Everyone's talking now, we got to have brain games. We got to train this. We got to train that. We have to do all these other things. Well, according to an article in Science Daily, Institut Pasteur did a bunch of research that showed that the human mind is so dynamic. It says, quote, our findings suggest that the plasticity of this constantly regenerating region of the brain occurs with continuous physical formation and elimination of synaptic connections. Basically just saying that the brain and this function of structural plasticity, its ability to be malleable, to be able to change, that it both regenerates and integrates new neurons, even in an adult brain, according to this study. New neurons. New neurons. So you're not getting older. Your brain is producing more neurons. What are you going to do with those? What are you going to do with them? I love this article. I have a suggestion. How about if we know that our brain is already building new neurons, let's push them to the cognitive cutting edge. I think we spoke earlier about adaptive difficulty. How we get right to the edge of what we know. That's when the mind sits up and goes, oh, wait a minute, what's this? This is something new. This is something exotic. I dig this. What's going on here? But what will happen for most people buying into the concept of it's always got to be goal setting, we set these, set these huge goals. And the parts of your own brain go, there's no way we're going to pull that off. But if you keep your mind at the cognitive cutting edge, then you don't have to set goals. You're just proactive. It unfolds in the moment where you are meditating right now, paying attention, showing up, not shutting down. The cognitive cutting edge. Be proactive for what's going down right now. Proactive within the unimaginable power of living in the present moment. And there's a cumulative effect. We know that now. It's scalable. It's stackable. So instead of constantly worrying about long-term goals, what if we're proactive in this moment? What if we pay attention? What if we witness what's unfolding around us right now, and we use that to stimulate our brain? Why let the little voices in the head go, oh, that's a huge goal. There's no way. Same as we talked about going out for a walk, a jog, a dance, a swim, a bike ride. 20 minutes, 1/72nd of my day. And if I do it 1 minute at a time, 20 thank yous. Get through 60 seconds and go thank you. 60 seconds more than I made it yesterday. 60 seconds more than I would have had if I sat home on the couch. So 20-minute victory is really just 20 chances to say thank you. And even if you don't have a target for that thanks, it's unimportant. It's cultivating a sense of gratitude for being able to pull it off in the first place. That's living on the cognitive cutting edge. That's the adaptive difficulty everyone's so fired up about in these neuroscience journals, medical journals, psychiatric journals. What do they call them? I think they're called stretch goals. But there's a cumulative effect. And when you learn to expect the unexpected, your mind and your brain will thank you for it. Because that's what it's built for. That's what it's built for. And if I'm wrong, then why do you have all these senses? And not just, I think there's like a half a dozen more than when we say, sight and sound and touch and smell and the like. Scientists are identifying a whole bag full of senses that we have. Well, if our brain, our mind, isn't built to expect the unexpected, why do we have all these senses sending back all this information? Why couldn't our brains have just been built in a rut? That's the way nature intended it. Okay, I'm always going to get stimuli from here. Here's this. Let's just stay on track. Let's just stay in the rut. Let's just follow the carrot at the end of the stick. It's not the way the body's built. Not my fault. Don't blame me. Oh, please continue to send the please continue to send the hate mail, though. Because let me say, once again, I'm not here for you. I'm here for your soul. It called. It's tired of your craziness. It wants off the bench. So you say, I'm not ready for that. Okay, would you be ready if you only did it in a small, teeny, tiny little chunk? 20 minutes? 1/72nd of your day? To be your biggest fan? To be your own best friend? To be your brain's best friend? Not to do those things that are detrimental? To look at your hiccups, not as a handicap, but as a heads up? Think about it. Not as a handicap, but as a heads up. 20 minutes, that's all you have to do. And when you remember that if you have no particular place to go, you can't go wrong. Wait and see what unfolds in this particular moment. That's the way to stimulate your brain. That's what your senses are there for. But we get tunnel vision when we get so wrapped up on our goals. We've got all kinds of senses coming in. We got tunnel vision. We can't see anything. We got blinders on. How much more do you think our brain could be stimulated? Now, forgetting the debate of what comes to consciousness, right? That our mind's still taking in all these things. Just for the moment, forgetting that debate. What if you could be consciously aware of a little more going on around you? What if I'm telling you the truth? What if life in the labyrinth is nothing more than a bag of clues, a bag of stresses, designed to make you stronger at every turn? Every turn. Lefts, rights, ups, downs, forwards, backs. Lunges, lapses, pivots, swerves. Whatever it is. That's the maze that the mind digs. That's the adventure. Something about to happen. And we only have pain We only have sadness. We only have embarrassment. We only have suffering where we end up someplace other than where we wanted to be. Well, for 20 minutes, what if you have no place to be? What if you decide just to be a survival expert, just to be an explorer? Go wherever this moment takes you. What could happen? Never know. What if you let your mind meander? What if you let your mind go through its, you talk about putting it through its natural paces? Maybe that's the way to stimulate it. I think it is. I also think that if you give yourself this shot, if you get off your own back long enough, give yourself a little bit of compassion. We all make mistakes. We all try this. Some work, some don't. Swing, whiff, yawn. I forget where I got that from. That was an old Saturday Night Live comedian. Swing, whiff, yawn. So what? It didn't work? Didn't work. Have a little bit of compassion. You look at all the craziness in the news. You look at everyone going to brawl. Can't log on to some news sites anymore, some informational sites anymore, because everyone's picked their camp, who they're going to fight for in politics. No compassion for another point of view. No intelligence. Can't listen to another person's point of view. Sadly, what that shows me is there's no compassion going inward. No compassion going inward. And you see it, this lunacy, all these celebrities. Well, if this one wins, I'm moving to wherever. Great. God love you. Too many people on our highways anyways. Get out. Or if this person becomes president or that one becomes prime minister, I'm moving to. Great. Fill in the blank. Just get out. But when we have a little bit of compassion for ourselves, then we learn compassion. And then we realize the other people that we're so mad at, the other people we're so upset with, other people doing the same thing to us. They're so mad at us. They're so upset at us. Everyone's got a tough gig. Cut them some slack. And it begins by cutting yourself some slack. Cutting yourself some slack. Don't use all that mental energy to beat yourself up. Use it to build a better brain. Use it to be able to focus on the evidence in this particular moment in all of time where you're poised to be a badass. In this particular moment, in this sliver of seconds, in all of time, where you remember that your mind works for you. You don't work for your mind. And when you do that, when you remember that being wrong isn't toxic, so forget the old habit of coming down on yourself like a ton of bricks. When you do that, then the life starts to unfold around you. All right, we're going to go ahead and get ready to hop out of here. Thank you again so very much. I'm supposed to mention a bunch of times, 331-684-7685, 331-684-SOUL. Also, don't forget, allnaturalbeing.com. Send me an email. I'll send you one back. We'll go from there. As you move throughout your day-to-day, cut yourself some slack. Don't be so tough on yourself. I'm getting a quote in now from a listener. Let me just read it real quick before we go. Before you diagnose yourself with depression or low self-esteem, first make sure that you are not, in fact, just surrounding yourself with crazies. I'll paraphrase that quote by Mr. Gibson. Before you think you're all these things, make sure you're not buying into crazies around you. Thanks for the quote, guys. Sorry I missed that. All right, we're out of here. Have a fantastic day, and I'll be here tomorrow morning. Farewell.
All Natural Being. You've been listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy.
Join us live every Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 a.m. Eastern.
Also, check us out around the clock at allnaturalbeing.com.
Until then, always remember to bring your own bold.
IPMNation.com.